Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe. And maybe check out my Facebook page where this whole thing began as well. All relevant links are in the description below. And of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of the characters featured in my stories, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Alrighty then. So, welcome, and what is up, Buttercup? Are you having a good day? Or a bad day? Whichever your answer, please allow me to distract you from your life and tell you a story, a Simsational story. Before I begin though, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done, But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with, let's go. Today's story is from Over to Oberon, and we're at chapter 3. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though. So without further ado. After years of secrecy and with the assistance of Magnus's research, the government had finally revealed to the public that aliens exist, and for the first time ever, the Nimeroo-Down family felt free to travel outside their small world of StrangerVille. First on their round of international holidays had been the Solani Islands, and now they were in Mount Komorabi. As he grew up, Oberon and his stepmother Kalaya had always morphed into their human shells, and they were still very much in the habit of doing so now. But for the first time in his life, Oberon knew that if he wanted to be honest and show his true self, he could. It was a wonderful feeling. Of course, his little sister Cosmos was who would benefit the most from this transition. She was the one who couldn't morph, couldn't hide her alien green skin even if she wanted to. She had grown up being stared at her whole life, but things were changing so much now. Although their own planet of origin, 6am, had not yet been made open to the public, another alien world, Batuuan, had, and it had quickly begun to become a bit of a tourist attraction. Oberon and his father Magnus went on a quick trip to Batuuan, where Oberon quickly became a hero of the resistance. They only spent a week there, but in that time he managed to successfully complete every mission he was given. It was also during his time in Batuuan that Oberon first met Giselle Gibbs. Giselle was a Batuuan native and a sergeant in the First Order, and she had actually been meant to arrest Oberon, but somehow that wasn't quite how it had worked out. It had all started with a simple routine ID check. Giselle wasn't really looking for anything when she first approached, just doing the rounds, when she noticed something strange about Oberon. He was definitely an alien, that was obvious. But he was not a Batuuan. What exactly was going on here? Oberon decided to run for it. Explaining his heritage would have been fine, but explaining what he'd been doing, trying to get access to a First Order control panel, was another thing. He figured he could probably get away with it, and maybe even be able to go back to the cantina later. What he hadn't expected, though, was just how stubborn Giselle Gibbs could be when she wanted to be. Oberon was actually angry. Giselle had not given up. She had, in fact, followed him around for hours. At one stage, he'd hidden in a barrel for over 45 minutes. Sure, she'd get bored. But she didn't. She was still right there waiting when he climbed out. So, fine, she'd caught him. Now what did she want to do with him? Things changed between them forever in an instant. One moment her fists had been clenched in reciprocal rage. The next, Giselle felt giddy as Oberon quickly closed the space between them to touch her cheek gently. Did she know what to do with him? Oberon had quickly located a resistance tent somewhere behind them, and he led Giselle back to it immediately. He'd never done anything like this before, but he didn't tell her that. Oberon enjoyed the feeling of being a mysterious, confident adventurer, and he made out like it all came naturally to him, which, luckily for them both, it did. Oberon and Giselle enjoyed 3 days of solid holiday romance together. They pretended not to notice one another's missions for the other side, and they each secretly kind of enjoyed the tragedy of it all, destined to forever be on the opposite side of the war from one another, but in love nonetheless. All good things must come to an end, though, and Giselle finally called it quits on their little fantasy just hours before Oberon and his dad were due to depart from Batu. They'd had fun, and she really liked Oberon, but they had to be honest. They were never going to work in the long term. Oberon returned to StrangerVille and his normal family life, a little depleted and disappointed. He'd really thought that he and Giselle had something, and he'd been willing to do whatever it took to make it work. But she'd bailed on him, and now he was alone again. Oberon did have his family at least, and for that he was grateful. His father Magnus and stepmother Kalalia had raised him and his little sister Cosmos with so much love and support that he really appreciated all the more now in his quietly heartbroken state. Oberon was especially close with his little sister Cosmos, and it was she who he really poured his heart out to about Giselle. It was Cosmos who heard about how starry Giselle's eyes were, how magical their connection was, and how much Oberon missed her. Cosmos was a bright and beautiful young soul who had some magic hidden within her own mind, and she advised Oberon to hold on to his memory of their love, while also almost tucking it away inside himself. If it was truly meant to be, Cosmos believed that they would find one another again. Oberon decided to take his little sister's advice and move on with his life. He got a scholarship to study physics at the University of Brichester and left for college. His parents' success earlier in life meant that he was able to afford to live on campus, and so, for the very first time in his life, Oberon was alone. And that brings us to the end of Chapter 3 of Over to Oberon. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't, it's your life. Anyway, bye!